Officer on scene. I didn't sleep very much last night. Let's start with that. Next, I'll give a shout out to CFB Cold Lake and to the Edmonton Police Department for the interactions that I've had with one of your officers. Positively so. It's you know, he's got some character. He can take a licking. You know, I'll just move on from that. Third, before I start getting into this Ukrainian schism, because that's kind of, if you ask me, what it's getting down to. And that's scary. It is. But anyways, I'll start with a prayer. So if you don't wanna pray with me, don't, just listen. It's very short. It's for everyone. It's Lord, bless me and guide me in these dark times. Amen. That's it. You know, because you can't always guarantee the safety of other people or their well-being. You have to. It's very hard, and then I look forward to watching Pavement City, actually, because you know life is a lot dirtier and messier than in the movies, and again, movies and culture are a reflection of ourselves, and you know the doomer music that's popular right now. And I've been listening to a bit of funk. This is PHONK, so funk with you know, I don't know. Let's look that up, see where funk lies. Is a subgenre of hip hop and trap music directly inspired by 1990s Memphis rap. Style, the beats. Now, I don't like trap. Trap is, I don't like the drum triplets and stuff like that. It annoys me for whatever reason, irritating. It's just like South American music irritates me, or praise and worship music irritates me. You know, just a personal anecdote. When we were growing up, you know, my parents chose to take us out of the secular world, and I'm pretty sure if we had the resources, we had the motivation, that my sisters and I would have been homeschooled, and we would have we were brought up in the church. I have no shame over that. I really don't. There wasn't anything within my experience of any of these churches that we attended that was negative, ever. So, you know, I don't blame Christianity for my issues. I blame other people, right? I blame other people for their shortcomings, for their egos, for the 7 deadly sins, basically, because we're all vulnerable to those things. And, you know, again, belief systems are integral, just like our history, to understanding who we are as people. And, you know, my bloodline is ancient. It's ancient. Those with O negative bloodlines, you know, we come from, we're supposed to be from the Himalayas, you know, because that's Caucasian. The Caucasus Mountains, so that's a conjuncture of Caucasus and Asian, so the middle of the world basically at that point. And there's, you know, bitter rivalries between different regional ethnicities. So say like the Greeks and the Romans didn't like each other very much. That's a good example. And you know, Russians and Ukrainians, because it's been it's been pumped up, this propaganda about, you know, trying to demonize Russia, and on the other side, you know, try to demonize the Ukraine because, you know, certain things, say like the Sputnik vaccine versus the other vaccines, so like the Moderna or the SC Johnson, because you know, it's this belief, or say this not this belief, but evidence supporting the fact that, well, you especially with the mRNA treatments, how that actually, well, it changes your genome. And you know, there's let's be honest, let's start with the geography and literacy rate of the Ukraine. You know, because you know, what I'm trying to get at here is that, you know, both areas of the world are depressed and are you know, suicidal in some degree, especially Russia, because Russia has such a depth of literary genius, quite frankly. You know, I think of Dostoevsky, I think of Tolstoy, I think of even Lenin. You know, these people were smart enough to come up with these concepts that you know, and people listen to them, and the number of the number of painters and so forth that rose out of say Peter the Great's efforts to European, you know, to westernize Russia and its little, you know, not macrocosms, you know, the different groups of people that make up the constitution that is Russia. And Russia is very diverse. It's more diverse than Canada, and it's larger than Canada. And as I've stated before, you know, before I get into the geography here, that you know, let's see, what am I trying to get at? That when you separate and isolate by borders, and that it's like North and South Korea, you know, where you have families that don't even recognize each other anymore after the fact, you know, after the fall. And you know, the North Koreans, some people, they start to love authoritarianism. Right? You start to love your captor, right? And you know, like, but we have this attitude in the West towards Russia that they, especially on the low and brow commoner people, which is the majority of us here on the internet. Quite frankly, you know, my skin is dry. I need to drink more water. That again, you know, it inspires helplessness and hopelessness, which, you know, comes out in the music, especially with the Doomer music and the Soviet era of this, you know, this embracing of the darkness, and you know, it makes me think about, you know, proximity of the Russian people in, say, Transylvania in Romania, if I remember correctly. You know, and these different traditions, different stories, you know, I say like the John Wick thing of Baba Goya. Baba Yaga, that's right. Baba Yaga is an enigmatic or ambiguous character from Slavic folklore who has two opposite roles. So this is from Wikipedia. Baba Yaga is an enigmatic or ambiguous character from Slavic folklore, one of a trio of sisters of the same name, who has two opposite roles. In some motifs, she is described as a repulsive or ferocious-looking old woman who fries and eats children, while in others, she is a nice old woman who helps out the hero. She is often associated with forest wildlife. Her distinctive traits are flying around in a mortar, wielding a pestle, and dwelling deep in the forest in a hut standing on chicken legs. So she'll grind you up. You know, we are so desensitized in the West from death and from the dying, right? It's clinical. We talk about you know, easing the suffering of the dying and, you know, putting people out of their misery, so to speak, with the more extreme ideas of how to treat people and how to have what compassion is. And you know, again, that comes down to religious beliefs and cultural touchstones. You know, whether it's so opaque, right? It's not completely understandable from the outside. You know, we just as I was citing in the first part of this, the Ukrainian special. And this is where I'll shout out to, say, Boris, you know, the Slav squat, right? You cheeky breaky. Hey man, how are you? And like how these cultural things become reasons to again demonize, or within you know, say like friendly competition or rivalries, which are healthy, right? Because iron sharpens iron, and I myself as a man want my brothers to be just as strong mentally, physically, and spiritually as I am, and I hope that my efforts yields you know, out of a bit of self-interest here, yield the same treatment, right? Do unto others as they do unto you. And that's the thing is that, you know, these again, there's rivalries between the Russians and the Ukrainians, because the Ukraine, Kiev is the first historical capital of Russia as we understand it. So Kiev versus Moscow sort of thing, you know, I'm not going to get into the exact reasons as to why that would be, but it does have to come out of the age of the Tsars. And the idea of Russian imperialism doesn't exactly you know, have relevance in 2024. That Russian imperialism would be more of a Cold War mentality. Jezebaba. So that has to do with related figures and analogs with Jezebel. West Slavic peoples. Two figures may originate from a common figure known during the Middle Ages or earlier. Both figures are similarly ambiguous in character, but differ in appearance and the different tale types they occur in. Questions linger regarding the limited Slavic area, East Slavic nations, Slovakia, and the Czech lands, in which reference to Jezebaba are recorded. Jezda, another figure related to Baba Yaga, appears in Polish folklore. Again, it's these families and with the crest, with a lot of people having crests and, you know, a shield, something to stand for, a bit of territory. But, you know, it's so murky and opaque, as I was saying now, because of the internet, and a lot of people have been suffering from this cultural Marxism, which went international because of postmodernism, and this effort to also by the Soviet state to remove all religions in order to have a communist utopia. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen because the Catholic Church is older than time itself. It's pretty much immortal. The Catholic Church may never die, as far as I can tell. Even with all the assaults and the shit that happened, behind the cloth, so to speak. We have to forgive and move on from those things. Otherwise, we will never achieve truth and reconciliation. So I'm going to talk about here the Great Schism of 1054 and how that influences Western, which is ours, attitudes towards the East. Especially with mysticism, and they want to dispel as best I can the rumors and the misunderstandings and of course the propaganda that leads people to be fearful and leads people to be judgmental and paranoid and so on and so forth. Because mysticism is a spiritual experience, an altered state of consciousness, and the way that they achieve that is through chanting, and through substances such as frankincense and myrrh, and in some other traditions, cannabis oil. You just light the oil on fire, and that's the thing, the fire, the symbolism, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, the burning bush, so on and so forth. Now, of course, I'm only going to touch on this stuff. I'm not going to go in depth on the Greek Orthodox or Ukrainian Orthodox or Russian Orthodox. I'm just going to do a small comparison here and a recap as to why. Right. So on July 16th, 1054, Patriarch of Constantinople Michael Cyrillus was excommunicated from the Christian church based in Rome. Cyrillus' excommunication was a breaking point in long-rising tensions between the Roman church based in Rome and the Byzantine church based in Constantinople, now Istanbul. The resulting split divided the European Christian church into two major branches, the Western Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. This split is known as the Great Schism, or sometimes as the East-West Schism, or the Schism of 1054. This is off of Education.National Geographic. The Great Schism came about due to a complex mix of religious disagreements and political conflicts. One of the many religious disagreements between the Western Roman and Eastern Byzantine branches of the church had to do with whether or not it was acceptable to use unleavened bread for the sacrament of communion. The West supported the practice while the East did not. Other objects of religious dispute include the exact wording of the Nicene Creed and the Western belief that clerics should remain celibate. These religious disagreements were made worse by a variety of political conflicts, particularly regarding the power of Rome. Rome believed that the Pope, the religious leader of the Western Church, should have authority over the Patriarch, the religious authority of the Eastern Church. Constantinople disagreed. Each church recognized their own leaders, and when the Western Church eventually excommunicated Michael Cyrillus and the entire Eastern Church, the Eastern Church retaliated by excommunicating the Roman Pope Leo III and the Roman Church with him. While the two churches have never reunited, over 1,000 years after the split, the Western and Eastern branches of Christianity came to more peaceable terms. In 1965, Pope Paul VI and Patriarch Athanagoras I lifted the long-standing mutual excommunication decrees made by the respective churches. Today, the two branches of Christianity remain distinct expressions of similar faith. Roman Catholicism is the single largest Christian denomination with more than 1 billion followers around the world. Eastern Orthodoxy is the second largest Christian denomination with more than 260 million followers. Eastern Orthodoxy includes national churches such as the Greek Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church. Okay. So over unleavened bread, you know. But that's where, you know, the thirst and the anxiety of having power, well, thirst for power, and then the anxiety of losing it. Because some people just don't know when to step away from the table, or don't know when to step out of the spotlight and let new life come into being. And it's not a comedy routine. It really isn't. There's just some things in life that are this serious because of the absurdity. You know, the drama, the tragedy of the ego, and the comedy of the arrogance, right? And there's, you know, there's obviously, you know, a lot of passive aggressive stuff going on there at times. You know, I don't know. I'm Pentecostal, okay? I'm freaking Protestant. Actually, I don't even know what denomination I am anymore. You know, I got a war inside here. I got the Irish Catholic, and I got the Irish Protestant fighting on the inside here. Okay, so let's look at the literacy rates of the Ukraine. And this is from World Bank Open Data. Uh, 100%. UNESCO, USI.UNESCO, Institute for Statistics, general information. Okay, come on. Temp. Why are you not opening? Come on. Oh, this is sad. That's disappointing. It wouldn't open the tabs. So we'll just go to the next one, which is the Encyclopedia of the Ukraine. Okay. This was published in 1993. Okay, the ability to read and write in person and reach a certain age. The standard commonly used in the Ukraine lands for statistical purposes. A distinction is made between full and partial literacy, or the ability to read but not write. At the beginning of the 20th century, the majority of the population in the Ukrainian lands was illiterate. The same with Russia. A result of the state neglect of education in lands ruled by Austria-Hungary, the absence of legal provision for enforcing compulsory universal education in lands ruled by Russia, and a weakly developed network of schools, and instruction in foreign, non-Ukrainian languages, and the short length of the school year also hindered full literacy, even among elementary school graduates. Concentrated efforts aimed at increasing literacy were made in Russian-ruled Ukraine by literacy societies such as the Kiev Literary Society and Kharkiv Literacy Society, and in Western Ukraine by Provista societies. An 1886 survey showed that 16% of Russian army recruits from right bank Ukraine and 26% of those from left bank Ukraine were literate. The 1897 Russian census revealed that 26% of the total population over 9 years of age in the Ukrainian gubernias was literate. The figure for Ukrainians there stood at 23.6%. With the expansion of the school system, the figure had grown to approximately 42% of the total population by 1914. So what that really is saying is that, you know, they were largely agrarian, right? Largely farmers. And the Ukraine is the breadbasket of Eastern Europe, right? There's the territorial claims between different families. And again, with context given by the schism. Okay. The literacy rate among Ukrainians in Western Ukraine was significantly higher than in Russian-ruled Ukraine in 1900. 25% of the Ukrainians were literate. In 1910, the figure reached 43%, 47%. The literacy rate continued to grow through the 1920s and 1930s. So why am I using this? Because that's the grandparents, right? That's the grandparents. And most of them, just like in North America, have left this earth, and so everything that they knew and that they experienced went with them. Okay, the Greeks. Again, a little bit of improvising, and since I've been around so much information, I would like to think that I know what a good source is, and this is a good source. Okay, so what it's saying is that there's a large Greek influence. Ethnographic territory. And so this excerpt, according to the 1926 Soviet census, there were 105,000 Greeks in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Again, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, a communist state proclaimed by the first All-Ukrainian Congress of Soviets in Kharkiv on Christmas, December 1917, and establishing through armed aggression against the Ukrainian National Republic by Soviet Russia and local Bolshevik forces in 1917. At the end of 1922, it became one of the constituent republics of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Until 1937, it was called the Ukrainian Socialist Soviet Republic. The Ukrainian SSR ceased to exist on 24th August 1991, with the Supreme Soviet of Ukrainian SSR proclaimed the independent state of Ukraine. So back to what I was reading here. Okay, so according to 1926 Soviet census, there was 105,000 Greeks in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, UKSSR, I don't know what they're really called, fuck. Of which 64,200 lived in the Mariupol region and 3,500 in the Odessa region. An additional 22,000 Greeks lived in the Kuban, 24 in the Crimea, and 10,000 in eastern Subcaucasia. In 1933, 156,000 Greeks lived on Ukraine's compact ethnographic territory, and 167,000 in all territories inhabited wholly or in part by Ukrainians. And in the USSR as a whole, there were 214,000 Greeks according to the 1926 census, and 286,000 according to the 1939 census. So it tracks, right? Just saying that there was a significant portion or population of Greeks. And of course that makes sense because, you know, Greece is so close in geography here. In that, you know, Greece would go up through, the Grecians would go up through the Aegean Sea, you know, past Bulgaria and Turkey, of course, to trade within the Black Sea. And these port cities like Mariupol. And that would have been part of the Silk Road. You know, because of the passages. If I'm correct about this, I'm just again looking at the topographical. We'll open this in maps here. Terrain. Because you have mountain ranges in Bulgaria, Romania, down through Georgia. Right, and the steppes are like the prairies here in Canada, so it's very easy, say, pass through Kazakhstan and then get yourself into China, Mongolia, and get south of, say, the Altai Prefecture, Karamay. You know, and again, you know, neighbors are a thing. And so this is why, because Russians share genetic lineage with Mongolians, and then China. Now, I always wanted to go to Russia. You know, it was always so interesting to me. But the language itself is very hard. It's very hard. You know, again, I have unfinished business. I want to honor my young self. You know, not to. You know, you don't chase your dreams, then you'll never see greatness in your own time. And you don't ever let other people take that from you. I mean, within reason. You know, you don't just go full Genghis Khan and start raping and pillaging your way across half the planet. That's a little too much for the modern era. Or not the modern era, the contemporary era. Was it Andrei Stars? Why am I thinking about Andrei Starskovsky? You know, the Shadow of Chernobyl, Stalker. That's it. Andrei Tarkovsky, that's it. I must not forget, you know, again, as I said, you know, Russians have, and, well, Ukrainians by default. I would look at the Ukrainians like they're Russian Irish. or the Scots of Russia. You know, just this attitude and mentality that comes out of them, especially from the cultural pretext that I'm illustrating here. and like those people are very skeptical of anything. Anything that you know, like a free lunch or something like that, or gifts. That's what I'm deducing here. That I'm probably not correct. But life is so hard because of the distances between population centers. You know, again, it's very much like Canada. It's pretty cold outside. But not that cold. It's only minus 3 degrees Celsius. Okay. That's all you have to say for that. I'll just put a button on that. Let's look at the geography and economy. Church hierarchy, actually. We'll just look at that. Okay. Okay, so this is off of Wikipedia. The World Bank. Holy. It's snowing so hard, I want to go for a hike. I like how this sucks. I wish it sucked more. Hell hath no fury like a winter storm. Anyways. I don't like this. Because, you know, it implicates the World Bank. Its track record, along with the IMF, has not been very good, you know, especially with the economic hitmen and the leveraging. And that gets into war profiteering and the extenuation, the prolonging of the war itself. But Ukraine's wartime economy is a surprising success. From Time magazine. Okay, from CIUS, Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's a think tank. Hi guys. I've tagged these people once or twice in my videos. So this article was published on September 11th, 2023. Okay, so it's more of the same stuff that was illustrated with the sandbox wars and what Halliburton was trying to do, and BlackRock, the other military contractors were attempting to do out of humanitarian efforts. At least that's under the guise of humanitarian efforts to rebuild the infrastructure and create a new, better society. I'm going to stop this right here at 40 minutes before this thing runs out. So we'll see you in the next part.